2B isn't cold. She's broken in silence, holding back storms behind that blindfold that raises more questions than it answers. And A2 isn't naturally rageful. She's been betrayed. Her scars aren't decorative. They're screaming vengeance from the inside. Both were created to obey, designed to hypnotize with their beauty while they execute without hesitation. But when one learns to shut down her emotions just to survive, and the other decides to hate without limits because there's nothing else left, the question that matters isn't who wins in a fight. It's what form of pain survives best in a world built on lies. Today, we talk about it straight. In Nier Automata, 2B and A2 are not pretty androids placed there for you to stare at. They are two completely different responses to the same rotten system that devours them. One represses to keep from falling apart entirely. The other destroys because she no longer believes in anything at all. And once you see that, everything changes. The fan service, those elegant silhouettes, those heels that have absolutely no practical use in combat, and yet there they are, stops being something superficial. It becomes a sharp contrast, perfect shells covering fractured souls. In this video, you're going to discover their darkest lore, the dynamic that has half the fandom losing their minds over the ship, how their symbolic eroticism amplifies the tragedy instead of undermining it, and why I fell completely in love with A2. Stay until the end, because my illustration captures that forbidden tension that we explore without filters on Patreon. Imagine a future where humanity supposedly survived on the moon. From there, it sends elite androids, the Yuri, to reclaim Earth from the invading machines. Sounds epic, sounds like resistance, like purpose, like hope. But there's a central lie rotting everything from within. Humanity no longer exists, extinct for eons. Yuri is a massive farce, designed to keep androids fighting in eternal cycles. Battle, back up to the black boxes, reset, repeat. No end, no meaning, no one waiting for them on the other side. 2B is the perfect gear in that machine. A2 is the bolt that comes loose and starts cutting wires. That context isn't decorative background. It's the cage that forges both of their pain. And once you understand it, you can never see the game the same way again. Ready to get inside 2B's head? Hold on, because her obedience hurts more than any sword. 2B, Yuri number 2, Type B, multi-purpose combat android, elite in the 14th Machine War. Official function, execute protocols without fail. Pod for ranged attacks, katana for lethal close combat. Everything under control. Everything perfect. And on the surface, it is. Distant, elegant, untouchable. Black dress with a high slit. Thigh-high boots, exposed back that communicates something her entire posture refuses to admit. Vulnerability. That blindfold that catches your eye isn't there because it looks good, even though it looks very good. It's there because looking too deep is dangerous when the system that created you doesn't want you asking questions. Her true function is an infernal cycle that very few people process the first time they play. She connects with allies, discovers forbidden truths about Yuri, executes, and resets, over and over. Not because she's an empty machine, but because she learned that feeling too much destroys her. That's not coldness, that's extreme self-protection taken to its limit. 2B's repressive psychological state is exactly what makes her more human than any character who screams their emotions on screen. Emotions suppressed by programming, growing hatred toward the cycle that traps her, the awareness that every connection she forms will eventually be erased. That accumulates, that weighs, and she carries it anyway, in silence, mission after mission. Her design isn't a marketing accident, it's military haute couture, a silhouette that hypnotizes while it kills. The heels bind her to duty in an almost symbolic way, impractical but defining. The skirt that flows in combat is a constant reminder of lethal grace, of something beautiful that is also a weapon. 2B isn't strong because her strikes are precise. She's strong because she endures repeating the same infinite trauma without visibly breaking. Imagine that. Every mission, a bond that shatters, a reset that erases memories, but not the echo of the pain they leave behind. How long would you last? That's her tragic beauty. Aesthetic perfection covering internal chaos. If all you see is sexy android, you're missing the soul behind it. Now, A2. Yura, Type A, number 2. The prototype that inspired later models, including 2B. Her origin, the Pearl Harbor descent, where her squadron was wiped out in an early ambush during the Machine War. Declared a traitor, a deserter, hunted by the very Yura units that now use her likeness as a template. She survives in complete isolation, vengeance burning inside her against the machines and against her own people who abandoned her without looking back. Where 2B represses, A2 explodes. Aggression, recklessness, physical and emotional scars from losses that piled up without giving her time to breathe. And yet, beneath that wild fury, something appears that catches you off guard. A hidden gentleness, moments of mercy where you expected none. Her design says everything before she even opens her mouth. Hair loose and disheveled, in direct contrast to 2B's contained polish. A form worn down by battle that defies Yura's pristine aesthetic. It's not carelessness, it's pure aesthetic rebellion. When A2 receives 2B's memories, something breaks and rebuilds at the same time. She understands, all at once, that coldness wasn't emptiness. It was pain accumulated for far too long with nowhere to go. And that transforms her. A2 evolves. She doesn't abandon her raw strength. She converts it into her own purpose. She destroys, not out of blind rage, but because the system declared her disposable, and she decided that was not going to define her. I fell in love with her for exactly that broken rebellion, that mirror of real trauma where betrayal forces you to be reborn completely alone. No manual, no guarantees of anything. If 2B is poetic control, A2 is an open wound bleeding truth. Dynamic/ship. This is not a cute romantic ship for filling Pinterest boards. It's a brutal emotional mirror. 2B, quiet pain, obedience fractured from within. A2, pain erupting outward, rebellion born from betrayal. Both have Yura roots, both were designed to obey, and both developed individuality in the abyss, searching for humanity while remaining eternal machines. They reflect each other in a way that no dialogue could explain better than their actions. They're not competing for who's stronger, they're different stages of the same shared trauma. 2B, a closed wound. A2, an open scar. When A2 receives 2B's memories, she doesn't replace her, she continues her fight. And that's exactly where the ship ignites. Tension where desire is born from mutual recognition, vulnerability wrapped in strength. Symbolic eroticism. Yes, Nier sexualizes. Short skirts, hypnotic curves, designs that clearly did not ignore visual appeal. But at the same time, it blocks. You're not going to see more than what the game decides to show you. And that isn't censorship or oversight, it's deliberate narrative control. The viewer wants more. The game says, this far and no further. That tension builds a powerful eroticism that doesn't need to show everything. Flawless beauty plus existential trauma. The fan service doesn't destroy the depth of the story, it amplifies it. Beautiful shells questioning their own purpose. The West tends to separate these things as if they're incompatible. In Nier, and in much of the more intelligent Japanese design, desire is narrative, elegant, adult, and that's not a flaw. That's exactly the point. Illustration. And now my favorite part, the illustration. I wanted to capture exactly the duality we've declared throughout this entire video. 2B on the left in blue-green tones that represent her emotional isolation, the contained anguish that forced her to stop feeling. A2 on the right in warmer tones that reflect her rage against Yorha, and at the same time, the warmth that 2B's memories leave inside her. The backdrop of flooded ruins with cold green light falling over 2B and warm orange over A2 emphasizes the full concept: containment versus rupture, obedience that hurts versus rebellion that bleeds. I didn't want to draw just two androids. I wanted to draw two ways of surviving the same trauma. 2B's boots gave me a hard time, I'll admit it, and cold tones are still something I'm working to master. But the final contrast turned out really interesting, and I genuinely loved painting this piece. If you're into this kind of symbolic tension, just wait until you see the version I made for Patreon. 2B obeys, A2 destroys, but both were created by the same lie. And maybe true strength isn't about screaming louder. Maybe it's about choosing what you do when you discover your purpose was false from the beginning. In Nier, beauty isn't superficial, it's a mask hiding fear. And that is what makes these androids not just sexy, but tragically human. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, thank you to my dear Patreons, Revometsis, Joy, CamCam, JPC, Patrick Starfish, and SNES88. Thank you for staying here on this adventure I one day decided to start. Without you, none of this would be possible. Feel free to leave ideas for future topics, video games, manga, anime, whatever you want. See you in the next video.